Hi, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Stacked Mentorship podcast, where we're here to talk all things sales mentorship and career development. On today's episode of the podcast, I'm excited to be speaking with Marc. Marc is Head of Sales for the DACH region at Bloomreach. He has over 12 years of experience in sales and has been a Stacked mentor for a long time now. On today's episode, we're going to be talking everything from starting his career in sales, what it takes to be a great account exec, transitioning to head of sales, and a lot more. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. Marc, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Omar. Pleasure being here.
No worries. If you don't mind, Marc, I'd love to go right back to the beginning. How is it that you got into sales? Why did you get into sales? What was that first role like?
Yeah. Well, some people would say I never never got a real job. So I started in sales, and my sales career started 18 years ago. And when I graduated from school, I tried to study. I didn't like it, and I thought I will just grab an honest job. And I started working at a bank. And turns out, especially when the financial crisis hit, that wasn't as honest as I thought it was. So I left the bank. And from there, I more or less mingled through several sales jobs, some not, let's say, not so flattering, but I did them anyway because I wanted to succeed in sales. And through some difficult stages, I got to join a startup from the Netherlands where I was more or less responsible for the entire DACH region. And we were like a service startup, so to say. We were internationalizing customers around the globe. And from there, I started or joined my first American startup, which was back then was Optimizely. And there obviously was a complete culture shock back then. And from there, more or less, I got promoted through the ranks every single year and made stages at Contentful. And now I'm at Bloomreach and being in the role of head of sales, running the entire enterprise team in the region. So a lot of bumps in the road, but yeah.
Interesting. And you kind of mentioned, I think you did some unconventional jobs at the start. What were they kind of like? And interested to know, when the time came that you pivoted from those maybe more traditional roles into SaaS to tech, those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, not one of the not so flattering jobs was actually after I left the bank. I was selling first aid kits from a truck.
Nice.
So really not that flattering. I was more or less cruising through towns, visiting my appointments I had, and I was supposed to sell first aid kits. And, from there, I had the opportunity to interview at a small software startup in here in Germany. They were more or less focused on revolutionizing order management for fleets. So for big fleets and in Germany, you have like lots of fleets more or less, and they were still used to do all this order management on paper. So the truck driver got all of his papers at the beginning of the morning, and he drove somewhere. And if in the middle of that something with the order changed, he had to stop somewhere, get a new printed version, and everything. And we did that on a mobile phone. So we made it accessible with bring your own device. You were able to use every single, no matter which brand, mobile phone, and you could have your entire order management on a smartphone. And this was a more or less something I risked because I thought that I don't want to sell first aid kits in my career. There needs to be something out there. And through some recommendations, I ended up at that company. And from there, again, I earned my shares, let's say, in sales, in traditional sales and software sales and service sales.
This is what I was going to say. Do you feel like starting selling the first aid kits kind of prepared you well? Because when you think about breaking into sales nowadays, it's kind of a little bit easier, you go to a nice venture-backed company, maybe they have all the nice sales engagement tools, you have all the phone numbers you need, like things are pretty straightforward. I imagine, selling first aid kits in a truck, not so straightforward.
Well, it was definitely a good training ground for outbounding and for conversations, because obviously you were thrown into appointments. You have never met the persons ever before. You met them face to face. You sat there and had to demo, had to talk, and had to sell all at the same time. And I had the same more or less in the bank when you sit there and meet a new person every single day. you have almost like rapid fire outbound calls.
Yeah.
And this was really something that at least gave me an edge, I would say, later down the line, because usually something like an outbound call makes you very uncomfortable because it's something new, you don't know the person. But if you have that background and you had this constant every single day, you get used to that. And back when I was younger, I did theater plays as well, where I was on stage performing in front of a few thousand, not a few thousand, but a few hundred people. And that helped me as well to stay cool in these situations. And then further through the training of selling first aid kits and meeting new people every single day, I really think that helped me later stages of my career to do outbound.
Interesting. So yeah, fast forward then, you broke into sales. Was the first kind of gig as a kind of like account exec role as kind of we think of it now? It was kind of closing. And yeah, what was this transition like going from first aid kits to tech sales, higher ticket items, all these kind of things?
Yeah, I had two stations before I joined the first American startup, and the first role would be similar to an account executive I had for the small startup for the where we did the fleet management. And after that, I was more or less country manager, business executive for the entire region, and for the software sales. And then came my big break, I would say, where I joined Optimizely as my first American startup. And it was like this complete culture shift. And it was like overwhelming to out of a sudden being in this large corporation that is based in San Francisco. I got to travel to San Francisco multiple times. It was my first time in the US as well. Oh, second time actually, second time in the US as well. And it was just a culture shock. Like out of a sudden you are moving so fast, and you sometimes feel like the wheels are coming off. We're going so fast that there's no way that we're gonna reach the destination where we want to go to. And then the companies before, as a Dutch startup, as a German startup, it was progressing slower. It didn't feel like we were way ahead of time. And especially if you're venture capital funded, you can make these leaps very, very, very fast. And as we had venture capital, we were just trying everything out very, very fast, and had this fail fast mentality where we just tried everything. And if it didn't work out well, then we try something else. And again, that was for me a adoption phase to really understand that it's okay to fail. I mean, I'm a German, so failing feels always tough for a German. I don't know if other Germans feel like that, but for me, it was always a challenge to fail at something, because it always felt like I'm a loser. I failed at something. But changing this mindset of failing is good. Fail fast and learn from it and adapt is way better than never trying something and never trying or never giving yourself the room to fail. And this was something that I had to adapt to and learn. And I think that is something that really benefited my career down the line as well.
Interesting. And so the transition from, like you said, things progressing slower to suddenly, okay, big scale up, things moving fast, wheels kind of falling off. Did you find this transition kind of easy? I mean, did you feel like, okay, this is where I belong, we're fast moving pace? Did you find like it was kind of like hard to adjust to, like suddenly like, oh, I'm kind of out of my depth here? What was that like?
Yeah, in the beginning, it really felt like that. It's like learning to swim again, but not like in shallow waters, but someone just pushed you in the middle of the ocean and there you go. Now you have to swim. All of a sudden you talk with all of these big brands out there, and the ticket size of the deals you book got way larger all of a sudden. And it got complexer. You had to add more stakeholders and so forth. And I think a lot of things that helped me in the beginning was more or less coaching. I had a great mentor back then, and more or less that helped me a lot to just understand this is just a job, and just have to keep cool, because everyone on the receiving end on the phone call or Zoom call is just a human being as well.
Interesting. And on that point, so interesting. So I think am I right in thinking 5 or 6 years that you spent as an account exec at tech scale-ups?
In total, it's even more. I think it's like around. It was 4 years. I think almost 10 already. Almost 10 years.
Interesting. And yeah, could you summarize, as you mentioned that, the benefits that you receive from having a mentor, and then maybe as you became a bit more senior, even benefits that you personally receive from being a mentor to people more junior to you?
Yeah. I think there's a difference between, maybe just to start at the beginning, there's a difference between the manager and the mentor. Because I fundamentally believe that there are a lot of bad managers out there that just try to have that Excel sheet and they manage by the book and they just tell you what to do. And then you have mentors who really help you to find your own way. And they never tell you what to do. They always try to find the solution to something together with you. Questioning, like leading questions and finding the answer, helping you find the answers yourself. And this is for me a mentor. And especially in the beginning, when you try to find your own way and you had someone to regularly give you like a small push in a direction saying, there you go, you can walk on your own, just try it. And having someone who more or less got your back, who kept saying, you got this, don't worry, you're fine, you're doing a great job, just continuing on that path. And that helped me quite a lot. And I had a lot of bad managers in my career where it really felt like we're having this Excel sheet now. So we have our weekly one-on-one. I have the exact same 5 questions, and I have to answer the exact same 5 questions. If I don't answer them correctly, there's a follow-up question, and that's it. That was all management. And again, having mentors really helped me to find my own way. And nowadays, when I look at my team, for example, or the teams that I've managed, is you really feel like, if that's my mentor approach as well, helping others find their own way and pushing them, just giving the small shove once they need that. And you can really feel how that benefits the AEs that I coach or mentor, because they, most of the time, they have all the tools right there. They just need someone to help them to find them again, because they are lost. They, as I said, they need to learn to swim again. And there's no one in the organization that really takes them by the hand and say, calm down, you got this, you have done this before. It's all like, as I said before, it's so fast paced that you have to do certain things in a certain amount of time. And if you don't do that, obviously you're in trouble. And this causes a lot of frustration with a lot of people. And they're just looking for guidance. Someone telling them, you're good, you're doing great. You just try maybe the XYZ. Let's figure out where you're stuck. Let's figure out where you want to improve. And that's sometimes all people need.
Yeah. No, honestly, it's our number one learning as well. Like at the core, it's like people actually need very little encouragement, little guidance. Most people have like 80% of things in place. It's just finding somebody who is, there for the guidance. And in this, so you said, okay, a couple of things. You've had a lot of bad managers, no surprise, but finding someone who is that good mentor in terms of like quality skill set, is it somebody who, okay, like job titles aside, roles aside, someone who is just willing to invest in you? Does it need to be somebody who's particularly like altruistic? Like what is the kind of personality types for someone who is going to be a good mentor to get?
Yeah, I think there's this outside mentor, that coaching that you can invest in. Or if you have, for example, your manager, your boss, I would always look for someone with, I think one of the most important things is empathy. Just being able to figuring out where the AE or the SDR or whatever stands right now. What is driving him, or what is confusing him? What can you do to help him? I think that is very important. And I think you find that more often than not if you, for example, invest into outside counsel rather than your manager, because they are more or less completely loose from what everything is going on for a company. They can just focus on the task at hand and saying, helping you to get better. And obviously, a good listener is very, very important. And being very open-minded, because I think a lot of times managers fall into the trap that they do the exact same thing with everyone. And as AEs are so fundamentally different, you have to change your approach to every single individual. And again, if you have a manager who has empathy, he's able to identify your shortcomings or your needs or your problems. So I would stress this as one of the most important topics. And again, having the will to coach someone, and having the how can I say that? you need someone who wants others to succeed.
Yeah.
And this is the transition that I made in my career as well. I was always looking for the next big deal, and I was always hunting. At some point in time, I noticed that I'm no longer getting this dopamine rush from closing a deal myself.
Yeah.
I was helping others succeed. And out of a sudden, I got this rush from having others succeed around me, closing their first six-figure deal or whatever. And that got myself way more energy and way more excitement. And that ability to really or not ability, but really that attitude to be willing to take a step back and watch how others are able to succeed and watch how they get celebrated. Just take a step back and just enjoying that someone else is being successful. I think that is very, very crucial to the role.
Awesome to hear. So we said, I think you did a little over 6 years as the account exec before transitioning to team lead. So could you just summarize what did you learn across those years as an account exec, and essentially what it takes to be a great account exec when you think about skills, attitude, mindset, all these kind of things?
Yeah. Goes back to first thing again is empathy. To being able to understand what your prospects or customers are actually needing. I'm a big fan of the Amazon series Jack Reacher, and I don't know if you know that, but there's this famous quote saying, "Assumptions kill," and I think that is something that holds very true to being an account executive, because in a lot of times you think that you know what the customer needs, which might
Yeah.
be true. It's very true that you identified what he needs. But the problem is not that you need to identify that. The problem is that he needs to understand that
Yeah.
he is needing that. And if you go into certain situations, well, knowing that he needs that, and you're starting to pitch your product because it will fix his problem, but he's not aware of this problem. You're taking step one before you take you're taking step two before you take step one. And I think a lot of AEs fall into that trap, especially when it comes to outbounding. People think the first email is designed to sell something. I need to sell my
Yeah.
product with the first email. But it's not about that. It's not just, is it just being able to sit down with your prospect for 30 minutes to do a full discovery. That is what you're trying to achieve with your first email. And that helped me a lot in my career, when, especially in the beginnings. I thought my emails were great. I was writing fantastic emails left and right. And then I had the opportunity to spend time with Skip Miller, or the late Skip Miller, I have to say. He deceased in the beginning of this year. A fantastic sales coach. I really highly recommend the book, Proactive Selling, or Outbounding from Skip Miller, which I more or less were the basis of my craft when I started working for American companies. And he always had this saying, it's not about the dog. It's not about us. That's more or less the saying. And when I was young AE, I thought my emails were so fantastic, and I was rocking it left and right. And obviously the customer or the prospect was a problem because they're not answering. I had the opportunity to sit down with Skip Miller, and we had this email workshop, and we were drafting our emails, and I was cocky as a young AE usually is. I went upstage saying, "Guys, I have the fantastic email. Please allow me to read my email, Skip. You will like it." So I read my email out, and all of my fellow colleagues were like, "Yeah, email, awesome. And but Skip didn't say anything. Just looked at me like, it was like, "Dude, any comment, anything you want to say?" The only thing he said is, "Woof." So obviously it was totally about the dog, and this was his only response I got was "woof." And everyone in the room was like, "Woof, what does he mean?" And he explained, obviously, "Woof is because the email is all about us." There was nothing in there that was about the customer.
Yeah.
And again, this was something that was for me a big learning. And I recently did an outbound workshop in my company as well, where I used that story, this Woof, all the time, because I think it's very important to just sometimes take a step back and look at what you're trying to achieve with the emails, and don't overthink it. Don't think your first email has to be like the sales, the selling email or the closing email. And that really was something that I learned in my early days, and really taking every single prospect or customer as an individual and trying to understand what is the unique situation they are in right now, and then take it one step at a time. I think that is very, very important. And the larger the accounts I was working with, the more complex the deals got over the time. And when you work with some of the largest brands in Germany or the DACH region, you all of a sudden have to manage like 10 stakeholders or even more. And being able to treat every single one of them as the individual they are, with their unique traits and the unique requirements they have, was something that helped me tremendously later in enterprise deals.
Interesting. It's funny you mention it. The email one was a lesson I had to learn myself. And actually, the penny only dropped for me when I became a founder, so that it was on my LinkedIn that I was a founder. And then suddenly I started receiving so many emails, so many sales things. And I'm like, exact the point. I'm like, you've got to think from the prospect's point of view, right? Like they are inundated with message and stuff. They don't want to hear about your product. You know, your product might be amazing. They don't want to hear about it. They want to know how you are solving the problem. And like you said before, they might not even know that they have the problem. So you're so far away from the pitch.
Yeah, again, I think if you look at the headhunter emails you get in your inbox every single day, I think nowadays 80 or 90% of them start with salary, equity, we are great. This is like a subject line. And I ignore like 95% of those because they're all the same. Sometimes you have even the wrong name in there.
Yeah,
and
I know.
It's outlandish how bad that is. And if you are, let's say, an exec of a big company, and this is your inbox is flooded with crap, like 90% of the time, it's very hard to pick this one email that is really, really good. And you have to write something really special, and your subject line needs to catch someone's attention.
That's the thing. Something I neglected as well at the start, like subject line, like the number of emails that I have in my inbox now, which are like quick question, Omar. It's just like ridiculous. Like people think they're smart with these subject lines, and you don't realize with all the mass emailing tools that are out there now, you're not smart. You think you're smart. You're really not that smart.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But cool. Okay. So you spent all that time as an account exec. Obviously you mentioned before, you had the personality type to be a mentor. You had been doing this internally. When did the time come that you were like, okay, I want to be the head of sales?
Yeah. I think what happens is, in a lot of times, it can be a curse to be a very good AE. I don't want to sound arrogant or something, but in my roles as AE, I was always very successful. And that led to my managers always saying, no, you should stay in AE. You are a very, very good AE. You want to still earn the money as AE. You're always performing. You should not be a manager, because obviously they needed my skill set as AE. So you got a lot of, through my career, I got a lot of pushback saying, no, you shouldn't be a manager. You should just stay in AE for another year or two. And I always kept chasing this dream in the companies where I was at, chasing this, but one time I will be a manager. If the opportunity arises, I will get the job. Turns out I was still an AE then. And what it took for me to actually make this jump to, and I think that's something that it applies to other AEs as well, is I had to change companies. Because I was fortunate enough that I had one recruiter who was chasing me. I have to call him out here, James Lamb. He was chasing me for over 4 years, trying to get me to join the company. And yeah, he was frequently reaching out.
Oh.
Yeah, he remembered that I have a family, that I like to spend time with a family. So he always had this personal outreach to me over the years, saying, hey, how are you doing? How is the family? Oh, it's Christmas and so forth. And then he approached me at a time where we was like, I need to do something about this. I want to be in management so bad. And this is something I want to pursue. And he came around right around at the time and said, hey, I might have an opportunity here for you in management. Because I didn't have the reputation as this super AE back then. And no one was like pushing me to stay in AE, because they offered me the job to take over and build a team. Which I did. And I had a fantastic conversation with the GM over there, and it all worked out. And again, I think the learning opportunity there for me was, sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone. If you really want something, you have to be open to join another company to get this opportunity. Because again, you are this AE, and everyone's looking at you as a strong performer. And if the strong performer is leaving, obviously, which is a very short-sighted view on that, because if you promote your strongest performer into a management role, if he is a good manager, because I think that is something that is very important too, because I think a lot of AEs do believe that they need to be a manager because that is the next career step. But the career is something fundamentally different than being an AE and IC. So I don't think that should apply to everyone. If you really want to do this, you have to be at least to some degree open to join another company to really carve your own path without your history of being this strong AE that everyone relies on to close big deals. And then I joined. Then I switched over, and funny enough, I've the last 2 years I've really fully enjoyed being a manager. Started outside coaching as well as a side gig because this is really something that gives me joy, and I really get a lot of energy out of that as well. And
Good to hear. And so, it's actually a lot of the account execs who join our program do have this in mind. They are very much determined. They want to be head of sales. They want to be VP director. Some of them, I can tell you 5 people who join the program who say, it's my 5-year plan. I'm going to get here. Can you summarize what the change is from going from IC to head of sales, and what it takes to lead a sales team?
Yeah. For me, the biggest change was realizing I'm no longer in charge of a deal. I have to take like this role in the back, guiding or giving advice whenever I was asked, and not being at the forefront, and being able to let someone else be the driver or running the entire show. That was learning about something that I had to change, especially in the first deals I was in, and I was asked to join meetings. I was always falling in my AE mode. It's like, oh yeah, I'm asking discovery questions. I know what to do. Like, oh no, I'm not the AE here, so I have to. Just, if I'm being asked, obviously I can help. But this was a big change for me, and I think going back again to what I meant earlier is that the empathy, having a team that is fundamentally different, I think is very, very important to treat each and every single one of them as an individual with their shortcomings, with their strong sets that they need to improve on as well, or covered more. And I think that was for me the biggest challenge. Really was getting out of the driver's seat. That was for me. If you are been an AE for so long, it really was for me very hard to do that. And I think you have to be aware that once you move into management, you are no longer the rock star. And I think a lot of AEs who are successful live in this rock star world because you are on the stage. Everyone is celebrating you. You are going around the world on president clubs because you made 150, whatever percentage. And this is no longer the case once you are a manager, because obviously you are managing a team, and you have to be aware that not everyone in your team is a rock star like yourself. And there could be people who have a lot of rock star potential, but you need to invest a lot of time to get there. And I think that is something that a lot of AEs are not aware of. And again, being able or being in the position where you really enjoy having others enjoying that other people are successful, that they get celebrated. I think that is something that you really have to embrace. And for me, it was always about not giving, not handing out the path to someone, but finding it to someone with someone else, or let's say finding the path to success together. And never like saying, you have to do X, Y, Z, you have to do this, because I've done this in the past, because that is again something, the trap you always fall into, because you did this in the past and you were successful with that. You try to force that onto everyone. A question that mainly every AE that I coach asked me, so what is your sales methodology? And I always said, like, I don't have any specific one. Like, that cannot be, you have to have this one. It's like, no, I learned a lot methodologies in my career, and I picked what I liked the most out of every single one and made it my own, because that is the only way to be credible. I think the worst sales pitches I've seen in my career were like people who are trying to force Challenger, and they had this Challenger notebook at the side with all the check marks they need to do in order to be to have this very great Challenger pitch. And you could tell that they were trying to look for these check marks. Okay, I didn't ask this. Oh, I have to go back to here and just ask this question. And it was so bad because it felt like robotic and never natural.
Mhm.
So telling someone that he needs to find his own way and to embrace his own sales methodology, whatever that is, I think that is very, very important to not try to force what you did onto someone else, because that is something that worked for yourself, and you need to be able to find what works for the others with them together, rather than just saying, do what I've done to be successful. I think that is very important. And again, having this coaching mentality that every single time you spend time with someone, this is their time, and that you don't spend this time for you, but you make time for them. And the way I do it, for example, is I have like a half an hour weekly session with every single AE where we talk business, like day-to-day stuff, deals, whatever it is. And I have a bi-weekly full 1 hour session that we just dedicated to career progression, career development.
Nice.
Yeah, where we don't talk about any business related. We just focus on where are we now, where do we want to go, what are the shortcomings, where can I help, where can I, as a manager, pull in more resources to help you be successful with that, what are coaching opportunities, and so forth. And this is something that is very important to me. Because again, I was in a situation more often than not where I noticed that my career progression got stale. And that was always the time where I felt like I need to go somewhere else. But as long as you have a manager who's willing to work with you on career progression, I think you have a place where you can grow. And I think that is very, very important. And again, not every single AE needs to be a manager. You have to understand that the role of a manager is fundamentally different. And it's not like the logical career progression. That's the same with I coach some SDRs as well. Every SDR is telling me I need to be an AE. Why? Yeah, my manager told me so. Yeah, but what do you want? Yeah, I really like to be a customer success manager. Yeah, then go be that. Yeah, that's not possible. I have to go through the A stage. No. Who is telling you that this is the logical career progression? The only person who should define that is yourself, with your own interests, with your own skill sets, and so forth. And just because you're an SDR, that doesn't mean you have to be an AE. I had one of the best SDRs I worked with in my career, and it ended up being one of the best SCs I've ever worked with in my career. So, and he was never an AE before. He just transitioned from the SDR role to SC because he had the skill set. He was smart enough, and he just did that, and he's fantastic. So again, it's not a logical career choice to be a manager if you are a successful AE or a successful SDR. You just have to figure out if this is really something that you want to do.
Great answer. Final question before I let you go, Marc. Advice you would give to a young sales rep, how they figure out where they want to go, and how do they build a sales career they can be proud of?
Yeah. I think always stay true to yourself. Don't sell something that you don't believe in. Because that, as I said, my career began at a bank, and I thought I'd do an honest job. And out of a sudden, you have a financial crisis, and everything you think you know comes into question. And out of a sudden, you notice everything you sell is no longer for the benefit of your customers or prospect. And this was for me fundamentally something that I had to embrace, like selling something that I where I understand the product, I know where the value is for the customer, I'm able to articulate why this matters to a customer. And once you are able to do that, and once you can have a value conversation rather than, hey, here's my feature. Feature A is great. Feature B is great too. And if you buy A and B, I give you C for free. And this is the car dealership sales. And there are people who are successful with that, but I haven't met so many in my career who are really like at this high level trajectory that most people I've seen who really embraces value selling. And be open, I would say, because again, sometimes you think you know everything, and you have this cocky arrogance as a young sales rep, because all of a sudden in your first sales gig, your salary is going through the roof, and you think like you are the best performer on the planet. but always look for the things you can improve. No matter if you did 110%, 120%, if you do 120%, ask yourself, why didn't I do 130%? What was there that was missing that kept me from achieving 130%? Always challenge yourself and try to figure out how you can improve. Spend time with a good mentor, whatever that is. If it's a manager, if it's a peer, just be open and spend a lot of time in, I call it deal clinics, where you sit together with your peers and analyze if you are stuck. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because I think that is very, very important. And it's not a one-man show. You're not there all by yourself. There are a lot of people around you that are willing to help, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. Because that's not a flaw. It's a strength to understand when you are stuck and when you can reach out to someone to identify when you actually need help. So this is very important. And never think or never be let down once you didn't hit a quarterly number. I don't know a single AE that never missed a quarter. They, if that exists, I would love to meet them. But it's natural that you miss numbers, and always keep the big picture in mind. It's not a problem if you miss one quarter. If you have your annual number, for example, aim for that. And if a quarter just goes miss, well, you have circumstances that are outside of your control that you cannot do anything about. So it's more or less very important that you focus on what you can control, and this is your annual number, and focus on that. And having that said before, focus on the things that you can control. I think a lot of times AEs get stuck in things outside of their control. Like, yeah, the guy is sick now, whatever. You can't do anything about that. He is sick. All you can do is that you prepare for all potential circumstances. And if something goes south, you are either prepared, or it is something outside of your control, which is just natural that things happen that you cannot control. And be prepared for those. And again, don't be let down if you miss a quarter. There's a bigger number to chase than your quarterly number.
Excellent advice, Marc. Really appreciate your time today. I'll let you go. If anyone wants to find you, is LinkedIn the best way to reach you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest way to find me. The fastest way, where I usually respond within a day. If you're not a headhunter with shitty subject lines, then you will get won't get a response from me. But if it's a genuine outreach, then I will always reply.
Amazing. Appreciate your time, Marc.
Likewise.
Thank you for coming on. And yeah, we'll speak again soon.
Thank you, Marc. Take care. Bye-bye.
I know.